What is going on, everybody? Captain 123 here, and today we are going to learn how to bring in the Boeing 747 in for an ILS landing in the new Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Before we begin, guys, if you would like to see more Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when I post a new video. Also, don't forget I do have a Discord where you can find other people to fly with in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Or if you need any help, feel free to join. The link is in the description. So let's get right into this video, guys. Alright, so here we are in the cockpit of a Boeing 747-800 at Charlotte International Airport. Now, my ILS tutorial with the Airbus A320 got a lot more views than I expected, and I got some requests for the ILS approach in this Boeing 747-800, and next will be the 787. Now, we need to prepare the cockpit and some things before we do actually come in for an ILS landing, and that preparation is going to be in the FMC. Now we need to get down there, and I'll tell you guys a quick keybind to get down to the FMC is Control N4. It brings you down to this center page down here, and I just use the arrow key to navigate over just like that. Alright, now you're probably going to see something like this right here whenever you first come down here, and this is just your ident page. It tells you the model, what engines you've got, the nav database, all that good stuff in here. Now, in order to set up for an ILS landing, we need to set an approach, and the way you do that is you come right over to this RTE page. It's right beside the init ref in the top left corner. You come to this RTE page right here, click on it, and we're going to see origin and destination. Now, this is really easy to fill in. Whatever your origin is, it could be literally any airport in the world, and your destination could be literally any airport in the world that can support a Boeing 747. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll be taking off from Charlotte and landing at Charlotte. So all you want to do is type in the airport code. So for me, it's going to be KCLT, just like that, in the scratch pad right here, and then click the button beside origin. And then I'm going to set Charlotte as my destination, again for the purposes of this video. So I'm going to type in KCLT once again and click the button right beside destination. Now, another thing is this FMC is Boeing, so it's a little bit different from the Airbus, but they're not that different. They just have different positions on their buttons, and this one is actually older. The one in the Neo is a lot newer. Alright, after you set in your origin and destination, what we need to do next is set up our arrival into Charlotte. So the way we do that is go to the next button over. It says DEP and R. It stands for departure and arrival. It's this very middle button on the top. Go ahead and click that. And we're going to see KCLT right here in both of them. But again, I'll say it again, yours is probably going to be different. But anyway, I'm not going to set up a departure, but I am going to set up an arrival into Charlotte because that's what we're doing. So I want to hit this ARR button right beside the bottom KCLT right here. And now a bunch of stuff comes up. This is simply your stars, which stand for Standard Terminal Arrival. And we have a bunch of approaches down here. And these are just simply runways. Now, in the Airbus, we actually have a page up, page down. But in the Boeing, we simply have these previous page and next page buttons right here on the very bottom. Now you can use this next page button to view your different runways that you want, and the previous page button to obviously go back. And you'll notice if you keep going down, we have RNAVs. That is a different type of an approach, and that's a different video. What you want is ILS, stands for Instrument Landing System. So I'm going to pick ILS 36 left. I'm just going to click the button beside it, just like that. And it's going to bring you up with stars and a transition. Now, this is a little more advanced stuff. Essentially, a star guides you into the runway, and the transition gets you on the localizer and the approach onto the runway. But you don't really need a star if you're not flying an actual route. If you just want practice, I just pick a random star. So I'm going to pick this BT-SAY-2 star right here. Alright. And after that, I mean, you don't need a star. Typically this execute button would come up. Okay, right. you need to click that route button that I just clicked, and then click this activate button just like that, and now the execute button is lit up just like that, and of course we're going to hit execute. Alright, and if we go to our legs page, which is right here beside fix, we'll notice a bunch of stuff has been populated here. Now you can view what has been populated by going back up here, going right here to these knobs, this little section right here, and we see APP, VOR, map, and plan. If you twist this knob to plan just like that, you'll notice it changes down here, but we can't see anything. Well, that's because the range is on 1/4 of a mile. If we go to the knob right beside it, we see range, and we twist it to the right, and that is to pretty much zoom the map out. And now we have some stuff, but it's way over here. Now if we go back down to our FMC and make sure you're on the legs page right here, we see this little button has step on it. Now this step won't show if you're not on plan. See, it just says RTE data. You have to make sure you're on plan to see that step. And once you do see that step, you can simply click through them and it'll step through each of your waypoints, just like that. And now we can't really see what's going on there because we are zoomed out too far, so let's try 10 miles and then step again. Now we can start to see some stuff. Now we see this is the localizer into the runway, and this is the runway right there. See, right here. Here's CLT. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off, and I'm going to try to get to this waylet right here. I'm going to come around this way and then intersect the localizer right there. Alright, another thing, guys, is you can check whether your ILS frequency has been put in or not. All you have to do is come right above next page. We see this nav rad. That stands for radio navigation, essentially. It's right here beside the menu. If we click that, some stuff comes up, and you'll see right here ILS, MLS, and we have ILS 36 left, and the frequency. Now, typically in a Boeing 747, you can set up your ILS frequency, but I don't even think it's simulated because usually your nav radios would be down here, but all these are communications, and I haven't been able to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, this is a really easy way to do it. Just set up your arrival into whichever airport, select a runway, and it'll automatically fill in the runway with the ILS and the frequency. And the course, I'm not sure about because it says 0 here, and I don't know if that's because 36 left is 360 degrees on the compass, which is essentially 0. But I'm pretty sure it does automatically set your course as well, similar to an Airbus. Alright, so that is pretty much it. I'm going to increase my speed to 250 knots, and I'm just going to cruise at around, let's say 4,000 feet. Just like that. And we are ready for takeoff, guys. So let me retract the spoilers. The only reason I got them out of the way, let me get these out of the way, to get to the FMC. There we go. Alright, and let's go ahead and throttle up. Now this is a very short runway, so it's going to be right to the end. That's why I went full throttle there. Alright, also I'm going to switch this back to map here. And you see we need to come in right on this line there. So I'm going to make an immediate left turn whenever we get off the ground. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious this runway is way too short for a Boeing 747. I mean, look. Right down to the end. Alright, I'm going to get my gear up. There we go. I'm going to start that left turn now. Because we are pretty much flying opposite of the localizer right now. Man, I wish there was a way to turn off air traffic control. If anybody knows of a way, please let me know. Because that is, like, super annoying. Alright, I just engaged speed hold, as you guys saw there. Click this button here. Auto throttle, automatically arms right here. And I'm just going to pretty much fly this line out right here. I'm also going to use heading hold. Alright. Why this keeps popping up? It's my little airline manager. Man, that is the most annoying thing ever. The ATC. Alright, I'm going to trim out the aircraft. And I'm going to get Autopilot on there. I'm just going to use vertical speed, and that is way too much. Oh my gosh. Alright, and you need to turn your flight directors on as well, and that's going to be this switch right here beside speed. It says FD on. Just flip it on, and it brings you a purple crosshair. Just like that. Wow, that air traffic control is, I swear it is the most annoying thing ever. Alright, I'm going to bring my heading hold over here and get heading hold on. Just fly that purple line. Alright guys, and while we are en route to our localizer, let me explain a few things and what's going to happen. Now, you've heard me say localizer quite a few times, and essentially that is simply a radio signal that shoots straight out from the runway, and it communicates with your aircraft and in order to line the aircraft up with the runway. And this is especially useful obviously in ILS conditions when you can't see the runway until you're right at it. Now, that's what a localizer is. There's another thing called a glide slope, and that's the slope, the vertical navigation of the runway, because obviously you can't land on the runway if you just stay level the whole time. So the glide slope actually angles your nose down at the perfect rate in order to make contact with the runway. Now, whenever we get closer to the runway, we're going to engage something called the lock right here, and it's this button right here beside the disengage. We have a lock. That stands for a localizer. Now when you engage that it's going to do exactly what I just said. The plane's going to automatically bank and line itself up with the runway, and then once we're on that, we'll engage the APP, which is the approach hold, and that's going to engage both the localizer and the glide slope. Alright, so I will get back to you guys whenever we are on.
Right,
and
so I'm going to start my bank to the right here, and if you guys didn't know, typically you want to try and enter at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to bank all the way to the right. I'm also descending. That's another thing. You want to make sure that you're low enough in order to capture the glide slope, because if you're too high, it's not going to capture. You also want to make sure you're far enough out from the runway. Like if I go to the outside view here, Charlotte, I don't even, oh, it's right there. That's where we're heading. So we are plenty far enough out from the runway. And I'm going to continue my bank over here. Now typically, I don't know, I just tested this ILS landing before filming this, and usually you'd see diamonds appear on these white circles right here. But I did not see any diamond, and I don't know if it's a bug, which that is the more likely case, because man, this game is quite buggy thus far, and apparently I think an update is supposed to come out today, which is Thursday. But I don't know, hopefully they fix that, and the diamonds are very, very useful to use. Alright, you don't want to go in at exactly like a perpendicular angle like I'm at here, because this is a large aircraft and it'll need to bank pretty far in order to capture the localizer. So that's why we go in at a 45-degree angle. And when I just tested it, I'm pretty sure this localizer actually did intersect you at a 45-degree angle. Now when you're getting close to this purple line here like I am, which is the localizer, we can engage this LOC button and it will line itself up with the runway. So here we go. We're inching closer to this purple line here. And still no diamonds. The diamonds will not appear. Alright. And we're probably safe to engage the localizer right now. And now you'll notice that the plane is actually banking to the right in order to line itself up with that runway. There's our line again, and it's just going to try to intersect us at a 45-degree angle.
2500.
And there we go. It's trying to line itself up with this purple line here. And we see the runway is pretty much right in front of us here. And yeah, I mean, as you can tell, the autopilot is pretty buggy. I mean, it's trying to hold me at 3,000 feet, but it keeps bobbing up and down. I really do hope and pray that that gets fixed, because it'll make ILS landings even more heart racing than they usually are, especially when you're in ILS conditions. That's what my Airbus A320 video was. I was in ILS conditions, but I figured I'd just leave it clear for now. Alright, we see the runway right ahead of us there, and the localizer, it's trying its best to capture us on that localizer. Now, the next thing we can do is, once we're pretty much in line with the localizer, is engage this APP button, just like that. And you want to make sure that it's going to light up with GS right here. We notice it says altitude right here, but GS under it. This needs to be lit up with a green glide slope. If you don't, then it will not start descending. At this point, I can start reducing my speed and lowering my flaps and drop the gear, since we are getting very close to this runway. Alright, and sometimes I noticed you'd have to constantly engage or disengage the glide slope in order to, I mean, the approach hold button to get the glide slope to pop up. But I don't know, maybe I just wasn't close enough to the airport yet. But it does say G/S under it, so I guess we will find out. Alright, I'm going to reduce my speed even further and get my flaps pretty much all the way down at this point. And you want to make sure this switches over to glide slope, which it is not for me yet. Maybe we just aren't close enough. And you also notice that all three of these autopilots just got engaged. Now, that means that the aircraft will land itself. Alright, there we go. It just switched over to G/S, that green. You want to make sure that did happen, because we are now on the glide slope to the runway. And at this point, you can lower your flaps all the way and make sure all your lights are on, which I'm not really going to worry about in this video. There will be full flight videos here very soon with a majority of the aircraft. And you want to go ahead and drop your speed even further. Now, I will tell you, I just tested this, you want to manage the throttle on your own, because it will not reduce the throttle for you. Also, Autopilot, the auto land is pretty freaking buggy right now, so I'm going to disengage the autopilot right before we land. And it does that anyway, because it'll be bouncy. It hits the runway pretty hard, but I mean, at that point it should be minimums, and you should be able to see the runway in order to land. So I am managing the throttle here, but the aircraft is taking care of the rest. You see it lined us up perfectly with that localizer and the runway, and it says flare and roll out, and I mean, that's just that auto land, but again, it's pretty buggy, actually. Also, you can't, I don't think you can arm the speed brake. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but like, you can't arm it like the Airbus, which I thought you could. But I guess you can't arm the auto throttle. I mean, not arm the auto throttle, arm the spoilers. So I'm going to deploy the spoilers myself and engage reverse thrust myself, which, by the way, for those of you that watched my Airbus A320 video, I have finally set up a keybind to reverse my engines. Alright, and once we're close to the runway, I'm just going to hit this disengage bar right here. in order to disconnect the autopilot and land the aircraft.
500, 400, 300.
Alright, and we should be able to see the runway by now, so I'm going to go ahead and disengage the autopilot. And it's my aircraft, but I really don't even have to touch it.
100, 50, 40, 30, 20.
Yeah, it takes some practice in order to land the 747, as you can tell, but there we go, we have touchdown. And my reverse engines should be out, which they are. And they're okay, level 4 obtained. There we go. And that is how you perform an ILS landing there. So that landing was obviously a little rusty, but you guys get the point. And at this point you can manually brake and get off the runway. And that was strange. I didn't even hear my reverse thrust come out, but I'm pretty sure they did. Alright, so I'm just going to stop here. There we go. I'm going to test this reverse thrust here. Okay, so yeah, it did. Oh, I must have not throttled up. But yeah, you guys can see I do have reverse thrust set up now. Alright, and at that point, you can pull up this disengage bar, pull up your spoilers, pull up your flaps, and start your APU, which is right here. Alright, so yes guys, that is how you perform an ILS landing in the Boeing 747-800. If you guys have any other ideas or anything that you would like to see, please leave a comment below telling me what you would like to see next. I plan to have a Boeing 787 ILS tutorial out very soon as well. But for now guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel and want to see more Microsoft Flight Simulator videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next video.